The other aspect of the preferences screen is the rounding. The rounding is a really important part of the system. So rounding is what happens when an employee clocks in or out, and we have a number of ways that we can deal with this. So if you are not using our labor costing module, then there is an option for you to round the total hours worked on a day, which means you can round that. If you choose to do that, you can round it to the nearest 0, 5, 10, or 15 minutes. So the system will take the actual in to actual out, and it will round the calculated hours that are a total for the day to the nearest of these options. So if you don't want to round the actual transactional times, you can leave the actual clock times as they are and just round the total for the day. The second option you've got is to round all clocks. And what that will do is the rounding takes an actual time in and an actual time out and addresses it accordingly. So for example, in this example here, we've got we're rounding our in times forwards to the nearest 5 minutes, but you can also go 0 to 0, which means from the minute they walk in to the minute they walk out, to the nearest 10 minutes, and to the nearest 15 minutes. So I could say I want to round my in times forward, which obviously shortens the day, and I never want to round them back. So that means if the employee came in at 9:02, then that would go to 9:05, so it is shortening the day. Whereas if I did this and said I want to go to the nearest 5 minutes, and it was 9:03, then it would go to 9:05. But if it was 9:02, it would go back to 9 o'clock. You can do the same on an out time, so you can round your out time to the nearest 5, 10, or 15 minutes. So typically what we see is something along the lines of round it forward 5, don't round it back at all on the in time, and don't round it forward on the out time, because obviously rounding an out time forward lengthens the day. Round it back. So what we're doing is we're taking the times backwards to the nearest 5 minutes. And this is on the basis that an employee who is clocking is attending, they're not necessarily working. So we're rounding it to get it to the nearest option for their working. With this particular setting here, the all clock times will be rounded based on this, including breaks. So you need to be conscious of that. If you only want to round their first in and their last out, then you've got the ability to tick this, which means you won't round their breaks during the day. It will only round the start and finish time of the day. If you're labor costing, there is another option here. Again, you can do the same thing. You can't use the round total hours for the day, because when you're labor costing, that would end up taking time out of a job, which is obviously not ideal. So if you're depending on which model, and again, this is set up by your success team, who will go through the process of analyzing what you need in these particular areas. So rounding is really important. You can change it after the event, but we're best to go through the process of identifying that at the beginning.